Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna. So, ultimately, bona fide spiritual master, representative of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Gaudiya Sampradaya, they will be teaching the mood of separation. They will be teaching that. How do you teach it? You hear about it, you study it, and then you experience it. Or maybe you experience it and then you try to understand it without jumping off a bridge somewhere. So my spiritual master, for spiritual life, you really need a spiritual master for spiritual life. You just, it's not a do-it-yourself program. You need the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because that's his arrangement. It's the way God has arranged things. It's just the way it works. So you become attached. Hopefully you give your whole heart and soul, your complete enthusiasm. You dive in and serve the spiritual master. And then he disappears. There you go. You just learned the perfection of consciousness, mood of separation. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna is making the arrangements. Different types of spiritual masters. I happen to be more or less directly connected with the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. But then there are other spiritual masters, and they teach the same thing. They teach surrender completely, give yourself 100% in service to your spiritual master. And then when he disappears, there you go, you've got it. The perfection of Krishna consciousness, mood of service and separation. It's kind of like, it's a principle. You have to have a spiritual master. It's a principle. Just like women really do need to be married. It really is Krishna's way. Sometimes there are those that don't for one reason or another. And just do the best you can, okay? Hare Krishna, keep chanting Hare Krishna and try to engage in service. And if you have a spiritual master who's compassionate on you, then you're okay. You just become attached to your spiritual master directly. It's rare. It's rare to do that. It's very difficult, not recommended. But it's there. It's all right. It's not everything is for everyone. Some ladies, they will not, for one reason or another, especially in Kali Yuga, be suitable for marriage. They don't have the right temperament. One reason or another. But married means a husband, and there are different kinds of husbands. Some are better husbands than other husbands, but she has her husband. So spiritual life is like that. You have to have a spiritual master and surrender, and so that you can experience what it's like when he leaves. And the whole time you surrender to the spiritual master, he's preparing you for that mood of service and separation. All the knowledge, all the verses, all the books, all the studies of other devotees in the past, all 12 cantos, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Bhagavad Gita, is all preparing to enter into that mood of separation. And we were just reading about the gopis and their mood of separation. Prabhupada explains their method of worship is recommended by all the acharyas in our line. Is that they became attached to Krishna in full loving service, and when he disappeared, they were plunged into the most intense mood of meditation on Krishna in separation. They remembered his pastimes, and they thought about him, and then Krishna sent Uddhava, a cousin brother, to give them a message and reassure them and explain that you can never ever be separated from God at any time. You can never be separated from God because God and his energies, that's all there is. What was that, Woody Woodpecker? That's all there is, folks. But we can forget. We can be in illusion and have a feeling of we can't find Krishna. Maybe he doesn't exist. We can have, it's kind of an illusion. The material illusion is he doesn't exist and we don't want him to exist, and we're busy trying to exploit everything with our temporary mind, body, and senses, and we're intoxicated like that with the material energy and desire to. Somebody posted a cartoon the other day on social media where there's a person lying on a raft in the ocean and surrounded by sharks, but they're under the water. All you can see is their silhouettes under the water. He's surrounded by sharks. And the little caption that the person that posted it said, if we could just get rid of Dad, if we just get rid of our father, then we could really enjoy. In other words, we could just get rid of the authority, we could just get rid of God, who's ultimately the Father, then we could really enjoy. But they're lying on an ocean on a raft surrounded by sharks. So that's the situation. There's danger at every step. And so that kind of illusion that we don't want to be aware of God. So, but then we're dealing with all kinds of dangers with no protection. But there's another kind of illusion where, yes, we fully accept God, fully accept Kṛṣṇa, fully accept his representative, his spiritual master. But we're feeling separation from them. Where are they? We can't find them. So the way that illusion works is that you become even more absorbed in thinking of them. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa. And that was the method of the Gopis of Vrindavan. To be completely absorbed in the mood of separation by always thinking of Kṛṣṇa during their household duties. Singing his glories, remembering his pastimes. And Uddhava, sent by Kṛṣṇa, helped them to understand that this principle that they're never really separated from him at any time, because, number one, his all-pervading aspect, and number two, he's situated within the heart of all living entities, even within each atom, but especially within the heart of all the living beings, as the witness, the supersoul, giving guidance and intelligence and fulfilling the desires of the living entities. So that's some consolation. It can take the sting out of the mood of separation, but that mood of separation, it's there. Very intense. So Srila Prabhupada taught that. And we saw that in reading about what happened before Uddhava arrived in Vrindavan, the residents actually went a little crazy. Some of the residents were saying they were Kṛṣṇa in their madness. And they went a little crazy. Kṛṣṇa. But that's what the Vaishnavacharya teaches, of the ultimate goal, Vipralambha, mood of separation. Thank you, Srila Prabhupada. Like, for the last few weeks, I've been very busily preparing. First time I tried this with this particular Sangha is to host the Sangha, the meeting. And it had been a couple of years before I had any kind of meeting here, any kind of Sangha here. And things had kind of slipped, It was just me. And things needed painting, they needed repairing, they needed definitely cleaning. And so I'm very, very busy for the last month or so. Just, and the mood was, the spiritual master's coming, the spiritual master's coming, the spiritual master's coming, which I experienced when Prabhupada was actually on the planet, what a temple would go through when Prabhupada was going to visit. Oh boy, painting, cleaning, scrubbing, stocking the kitchen, to make sure there was enough for everything, and just if there was a little bit of landscaping, everything had to be standing at attention. Prabhupada was coming. And his quarters all nice and clean and sparkly. And the red carpet. In LA, there was a red carpet. They rolled the red carpet out so Prabhupada could walk from his vehicle to the temple, the red carpet. So I was absorbed in that mood because the Sangha was coming. And when there's devotee association and they're glorifying Kṛṣṇa, then the spiritual master is there. And this particular group is very eager to feel Prabhupada's presence. So I was absorbed, it was flying high, just really flying. Prabhupada's coming, eat, sleep every day for the last 3 weeks or a month, and got everything amazingly in shape, more or less. There's always more to do, but it'd work. And then the devotees came. We had a very pleasant meeting, chanted very sweetly, and felt the mercy of Kṛṣṇa in many different ways. Very sweet, very family mood. And then they left. Which is what Prabhupada would do. He would visit a temple and then he would leave. He'd go to visit another temple. He was always traveling. I think he circled the globe, I don't know how many times. In the 13 years he was traveling and preaching, hundreds of times. He said he went everywhere. So then I had to deal with that, that it's like a huge vacuum is created. And wow, it's been intense for the last day or two. I'm just starting to recuperate. It's just starting to, if you have a pool of water and natural, like a lake or small pond or something, and you stir it all up, everything gets all stirred up, and then there's a lot going on, and then you have to wait a while till it all kind of settles out and it becomes clear again. So, wow, whew, Kṛṣṇa. So this is day 2 after the disappearance. And I was asked if we could do this every month, in the middle of the month. So I have a month to recuperate. And wow, Hare Kṛṣṇa, we'll see. We'll see, because the emotions are intense. Kṛṣṇa, 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 Kṛṣṇa. Oh, God. So I wanted to sing the prayers to the spiritual master. This is a song that's sung every day in the temple. The temples, ISKCON temples. Whoops. Hello. Don't do that. There we go. And it's the Shri Shri Gurvastika. And there's different melodies and tunes. The one in the morning tends to be a little lively. But there is another tune that's a little more kind of instead of sung in a major key, it's the mood is sort of in a minor key, which is a little more maybe melancholic. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Samsaradava nanavida loka Trunaya Karunya Ganaganatvam Bhakta Sikayana Gananavashi Vande Devoshi Charnaravindam. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy. Just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the materially afflicted world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is an ocean of auspicious qualities. Mahaprabhu Kitan Ita Gita Vaditramadyan Manasarasena Romanchikam Pasutaranga Pasu Vande Devoshi Charnaravindam. Chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing, playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the Sankirtan movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, and sometimes his hair stands on end, he feels quivering in his body, and tears flow from his eyes like waves. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Shri Vigrahara Tananitanana Shingartan Mandir Majanado Yuktasya Bhaktam Chatayunjatopi Vande Garoshi Charnaravindam. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Sri Radha and Kṛṣṇa. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, perform other similar worship of the Lord. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasad Swadana Tirtam Hari Bhakta Sangam Kevaiva Tirtim Bhajata Sadaiva Vande Garoshi Charnaravindam. I couldn't seem to capture the melancholy mood. This is the more uptone mood. Kṛṣṇa. The spiritual master is always offering Kṛṣṇa 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzed as that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasad, he's satisfied. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Shri Radhika Madhaviyorapara Madhurya Lila Gunarupanana Pratikshanaspadalalupasya Vande Garoshi Charnaravindam. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes of Radhika and Madhava and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. Nikunjayuno Ratikeli Sivaya Yayalibir Tirapeshaniya Tatrati Dakshadati Valavasya Vande Garoshi Charnaravindam. The spiritual master is very dear because he is expert in assisting the gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. That describes Uddhava. That verse describes Uddhava. That verse describes Uddhava. Uddhava was an instructing spiritual master. He assisted the gopis. Yes, that describes Uddhava. 7. Shakshadari Bena Samasta Shastra Uktastata Bhavyate Visapi Kintu Prabhuya Priyaiva Tasya Vande Garoshi Charanarvindam. Not just Uddhava, but that does fit Uddhava. The spiritual master is to be honored as much as the Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servitor of the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hari, Kṛṣṇa. Yasya prasada bhagavat prasado Yasya prasada nagati katopi Dayanstuvam tasya yasyatri sandam Vande garoshi charanarvindam. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives the benediction of Kṛṣṇa. Without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master. Oh, Kṛṣṇa. Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa. Alright, Prabhupada. Jai Śrīla Prabhupada. Kṛṣṇa Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda. So this is chapter 47 of the summary study of Srimad Bhagavatam by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And Kṛṣṇa pleases his devotees. I've read this summary study of Kṛṣṇa book several times, from front to back, but several times. But every time is new and fresh. Every time. So this chapter is Kṛṣṇa pleases his devotees. So Uddhava has been with the gopis in Vrindavan for the last few months and has engaged them in hearing and chanting, acting as their spiritual master in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, helping them to enlighten them as to Kṛṣṇa, his qualities. They already loved Kṛṣṇa wholeheartedly as a person, but now he helped them to understand these other aspects of Kṛṣṇa as the personality of Godhead. So for days together, Kṛṣṇa heard from Uddhava all the details of his visit to Vrindavan, of the condition of his father and mother, and of the gopis and the cowherd boys. Lord Kṛṣṇa was fully satisfied that Uddhava was able to solace them by his instruction and by the message delivered to them. Lord Kṛṣṇa then decided to go to the house of Kubja, the hunchback woman, who had pleased him by offering him sandalwood when he was entering the city of Mathura. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Kṛṣṇa always tries to please his devotees, and the devotees try to please Kṛṣṇa. As the devotees always think of Kṛṣṇa within their hearts, so Kṛṣṇa also thinks of his devotees within himself. When Kubja was converted into a beautiful society girl, Kṛṣṇa stepped on her toes and pulled her up by her cheeks, and a little bit of healing going on there. She was healed from the hunchback condition. When Kubja was converted into a beautiful society girl, society girl is actually a civilized way of saying prostitute. Or society girl. She's a prostitute. In that culture, there was sometimes need for the service of the prostitute. But she's pretty high class, and she's Krishna conscious. When Kubja was converted into a beautiful society girl, she wanted Krishna to come to her place so she could try to receive and worship him in her own way. Society girls generally try to satisfy their clients by offering their bodies to the men to enjoy. But this society girl, Kubja, was absolutely captivated by a lust to satisfy her senses with Krishna. When Krishna desired to go to the house of Kubja, he certainly had no desire for sense gratification. By supplying the sandalwood pulp to Krishna, Kubja had already satisfied his senses. On the plea of her sense gratification, he decided to go to her house, not actually for sense gratification, but to turn her into a pure devotee. You see what's going on here? By taking prasadam, mercy of Krishna, tongue becomes purified. By hearing the glorification of Krishna, the ears become purified. By seeing the beautiful form of Krishna in the temple and in paintings and pictures, the eyes become purified. Well, here Kubja, she's going to get purified. It's Hare Krishna. Krishna is always served by many thousands of goddesses of fortune. Therefore, Krishna had no need to satisfy his senses by going to a society girl. But as he is kind to everyone, he decided to go there. It is said that the moon does not withhold its shining from the courtyard of a crooked person. Similarly, Krishna's transcendental mercy is never denied to anyone, whether one has rendered service unto him through lust, anger, fear, or pure love. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated that if one wants to serve Krishna and at the same time wants to satisfy his own lusty desires, Krishna will handle it, so the devotee forgets his lusty desires and becomes fully purified and constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. In order to fulfill his past promise, Kṛṣṇa, along with Uddhava, went to the house of Kubja. When Kṛṣṇa reached her house, so Kṛṣṇa and Uddhava both went. Kṛṣṇa. When Kṛṣṇa reached her house, he saw that it was completely decorated in a way to excite the lusty desires of a man. This suggests that there were many nude pictures, on top of which were canopies and flags embroidered with pearl necklaces, along with comfortable beds and cushioned chairs. The rooms were provided with flower garlands and were nicely scented with incense and sprinkled with scented water, and the rooms were illuminated by nice lamps. When Kubja saw that Lord Krishna had come to her house in order to fulfill his promised visit, she immediately got up from the chair to receive him. Accompanied by her many girlfriends, she began to talk with him with great respect and honor. After offering him a nice place to sit, she worshipped Lord Krishna in a manner just suitable to her position. It's not described in great detail here, but this is a house of prostitution. Uddhava was similarly received by Kubja and her girlfriends, but he was not on an equal level with Krishna, and he simply sat down on the floor. Without wasting time, as one does in such situations, Krishna entered the bedroom of Kubja. In the meantime, Kubja took her bath and smeared her body with sandalwood pulp. She dressed herself with nice garments, valuable jewelry, ornaments, and flower garlands. Chewing betel nuts and other intoxicating edibles, and spraying herself with scents, she appeared before Kṛṣṇa. Sounds like Maya. Her smiling glance and moving eyes were full of feminine bashfulness, and as she stood gracefully before Lord Kṛṣṇa, who was known as Madhava, the husband of the goddess of fortune. When Kṛṣṇa saw that Kubja was hesitating to come before him, he immediately caught hold of her hand, which decorated with bangles. With great affection, he dragged her beside him and made her sit by his side. Simply by having previously supplied pulp of sandalwood to the Supreme Lord Kṛṣṇa, Kubja became free from all sinful reactions and eligible to enjoy with him. She then took Kṛṣṇa's lotus feet and placed them on her breasts, which were burning with the blazing fire of lust. While smelling the fragrance of Kṛṣṇa's lotus feet, she immediately became relieved of all lusty desires. She was thus allowed to embrace Kṛṣṇa with her 2 arms and thus mitigate her long-cherished desire to have Kṛṣṇa as a visitor in her house. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita that without being freed of all material sinful reactions, one cannot be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Simply by supplying sandalwood pulp to Kṛṣṇa, Kubja was thus rewarded. She was not trained to worship in any other way. Therefore, she wanted to satisfy him by her profession. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the Lord can be worshipped even by one's profession, if it is sincerely offered for the pleasure of the Lord. Kubja then told Kṛṣṇa, "My dear friend, kindly remain with me at least for a few days. Enjoy with me, you and your lotus-eyed friend. I cannot leave you immediately. Please grant my request." As stated in the Vedic versions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has multi-potencies. According to expert opinion, Kubja represents the Purusha Shakti potency of Kṛṣṇa. Purusha Shakti potency of Kṛṣṇa, just as Srimati Radharani represents his Chit Shakti potency. So, Chit Shakti is knowledge, Chit. Purusha Shakti, Purusha, we know the Purusha avatars, Purusha incarnations, Purusha Shakti. Although she requested Kṛṣṇa to remain with her for some days, Kṛṣṇa politely impressed upon her that it was not possible for him to stay. Kṛṣṇa visits this material world occasionally, whereas his connection with the spiritual world is eternal. Right. Purusha Shakti. Okay. Kṛṣṇa visiting the material world in the Purusha Shakti. She represents the Purusha Shakti. But Kṛṣṇa stays in the spiritual world all the time. He never leaves. Chit Shakti. Kṛṣṇa is always present either in the Vaikuntha planets or in the Goloka Vrindavan planet. The technical term for his presence in the spiritual world is Prakata Lila. It's not that he engages in sense gratification in the material world, but by his being present there, there's a kind of Lila. Prakata Lila. No, that's the spiritual Prakata Lila. Hare Krishna. After satisfying Kubja with sweet words, Kṛṣṇa returned to his place along with Uddhava. There is a warning in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Kṛṣṇa is not very easily worshipped because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the chief among the Vishnu Tattvas. To worship Kṛṣṇa or have association with him is not a very easy job. Specifically, there is a warning for devotees who are attracted to Kṛṣṇa through conjugal love. It is not good for them to desire to have sense gratification by direct association with Kṛṣṇa. Actually, the activities of sense gratification are material. In the spiritual world, there are symptoms like kissing and embracing, but there is no sense gratificatory process as it exists in the material world. This warning is specifically for those known as sahajiya, who take it for granted that Kṛṣṇa is an ordinary human being. They desire to enjoy sex life with him in a perverted way. In a spiritual relationship, sense gratification is most insignificant. Anyone who desires a relationship of perverted sense gratification with Kṛṣṇa must be considered to be less intelligent. His mentality requires to be reformed. So Kṛṣṇa chapter is Kṛṣṇa pleases his devotees. He just visited Kubja and elevated her to the platform of pure devotion. Hare Kṛṣṇa. And he's going to visit Kṛṣṇa now. But I think we're going to stop. Hello, Vipin. Hare Kṛṣṇa. We're just reading about Kṛṣṇa visiting Kubja. Hare Kṛṣṇa. But I'm going to go now. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Chaitanya.